carrying the cross by himself, he went out to what is called the place of the skull. And carrying the cross by himself, he went out to what is called the place of the skull. That's you. That's you. Do you realize, of course, that you ultimately have no value? You have to be able to see that you have no value. You live your days, you have your family, you celebrate your celebrations, you do the things that you do your best to have some meaning in your life. You may fool yourself for a long, long time, but ultimately, you have no value. Ultimately, you will come and you will go with the breath of the wind of time, and you will be scattered as the dust. Open the books. Open the photography books that you know that you have at home of your great-great-grandparents, of your great-great-great-grandparents. You know, those tin types. Maybe not even 100 years ago. Maybe 50 years ago. What do you know about those people's lives? What do you know about how they lived? The things that they took to themselves as being important, the things that they celebrated, the experiences that they have. And unless you're, less than probably 2 generations, 3 generations removed at the least, you probably know nothing. And that's you. You have no value, ultimately. Consciousness is a trick of sparking molecules inside of the skull that you have. Electrical brain waves going here and there. You think you're something, but ultimately, more than not, and it doesn't take you very far to go to the corner and find the philosopher who will say that all life is just perception anyway. Nothing really exists other than what you perceive. And how do you know that anything beyond your ability to perceive is really even real? This is all there is. Look around you. You're in a building that's falling apart a little bit more every year. Just talk to your trustees. They need to prop this up. They need to prop that up. They need to put some shingles on the roof. They need to go here, there, and everywhere. Don't even think about the building. Think about yourself. This is all there is. The life behind you, it's done. It's over with. I hope you had fun. I guess ultimately that's all you can really get out of anything, is to have fun. So when you go home, eat another cupcake, watch another show, entertain yourself with another joke, laugh for now because you really won't be laughing later. Is the best behind you? Probably for most of us it is. The best of our lives, it's behind us. Are you suffering? Too bad. Deal with it somehow. Is life unfair to you? Oh, what's fairness? What's fairness? See, there you go again, thinking that you're important. If you think in terms of things being fair or not fair, there's no such a thing. Surely you must know that, and you must see to that. Refer to step 1, right? You are ultimately of no value. So if you think outside of what you can touch, what you can feel, what you can sense, you're fooling yourself. And isn't that cruel in and of itself? That you've sprung into existence for no purpose, no reason, and yet the cruelty of you thinking that you matter and that any of this matters. The strong survive. You know that. The strong, the crafty. The ones that figure things out. The ones that are able to cope and get along, and prosper by figuring things out. Dog eat dog if it comes down to that. Somebody gets in your way, get rid of them. Oh, I don't mean like through violence, but at least initially. Ultimately, I guess you can, because, refer to number 1. You and everyone else is of no value, ultimately. No one is any more valuable than anyone else, and so when no one is any more valuable than anyone else, we're just kind of all microbes in a pot, stewing around. Who cares if you lose a few? You came alone into this world. Oh, I know you were birthed out of your mother's body, but really you were birthed alone. Anything could have happened. Think about struggling as a child, what you had to do, how you had to perceive and learn and understand. You had to learn how to read. You had to learn how to you had to learn how to walk. It's all coming back, That's where you're going again. Year after year after year, your mind will probably deteriorate just a little bit more and a little bit more. And if it's not your mind, it'll be your body. Right? Where did I read somewhere that a certain point in time in your life, someone else will pick you up by the belt and take you where you do not wish to go. That sounds familiar, but I guess I'm not really quite sure where I got it. You came alone into this world, and you will die alone. Oh, you can be surrounded by family, but at that moment of death, you are going to have to walk that walk yourself. There isn't going to be anybody there for you or with you as you begin to lose consciousness, and all those little molecules that made up supposedly who you are begin to blink out one right after the other. Alone. Even surrounded by family and friends, you'll be alone. And regrets and failures. You got any? Well, what's the old philosopher say? If you haven't lived life, well, then you probably have no regrets, or vice versa. If you have regrets, maybe you've lived life. You still got them. They're not going anywhere. The things that gnaw at you every day, things that tear at you every day. But you know what? I have some good news. Just let it go, because, refer to number 1, you have no value, ultimately. Who cares? Who cares what you do? Who cares what you think? Ultimately, if we are true with ourselves, maybe you need to do some questionable things in order to advance, once again, in your own mind, in your own life, advance along the ladder of what? Accumulating things? Having more things than other people do? Having better things than other people do? I guess you could argue that's the ultimate goal of life, because, once again, it's just going to all end in death. Your failures and your regrets, they never leave you, but you know what's sad about all of that? Seriously, is that you just weren't strong enough. You weren't strong enough. How many times did you mess up your life doing something wrong, saying something, following a certain path, and then you had to pay for it for years? It's because you weren't strong enough. It's because you didn't stand up to whoever you needed to stand up to. It's because you didn't do what you felt you needed to do. And your faith, your Christian faith, that's even a failure. It's cute. Your Christian faith is cute. It's a remnant from a bygone era in which people used to push each other around by manipulating ecclesiastical armies and killing one another in the name of who knows what God. Faith is even a failure, because what does that mean? That means you need something outside of yourself. You need something greater than yourself, but I'm sorry, it's not there. It's not there. And just face it, if you need this faith, that means probably deep inside you're just not good enough on your own. You're just not good enough on your own. For you to need this crutch, for you to need this fairy tale. And everything's meaningless anyway, right? Refer back to number 1. Everything is meaningless. Where have I heard that before? Meaningless, meaningless, says the great philosopher. Everything is meaningless, pointless, swallowed by time. And carrying the cross by himself, he went out to what is called the place of the skull. I'm going to put a nice little bow on that. I'm going to tie that all up. I'm going to truss it up and give it to you. Congratulations, you have just received the gift of the world. That is the theology, the philosophy of the world. And that's all it can give you. It can't give you anymore. Congratulations, you've just received the package that is known as science. That's science. Well, now science can do some incredible things. It can do some incredible things. I'm not saying that it can't do incredible things with our bodies, with our world, but ultimately, what's it all about? You can't measure it. You can't replicate it. You can't spoon it out. You can't recreate it in a laboratory. There you go. There's your science. There's your world. Is that it? Is that all? Have we fallen so much in love with this rock that we live on? Have we fallen so much in love with what we see before our eyes and hear with our ears and sense with our feeling, that that's the all in all? Talk to the young people in your family. What do they think? Where do they go? What is their thinking based on? What do they make decisions based upon? Someday these young people are going to be the ones that are going to be in charge of the nursing home that you're staying in. I wonder how they're going to make decisions based on how you will be treated. The world. The world. Congratulations, you've received the gift tonight of the world. But I want to read something to you. Something that we heard tonight that came from the very first reading that we heard tonight. And I'm going to read it, and I'm going to leave it with you. And you can think about it, and you can mull it over, and you can decide what you want to do with it. And you can decide who you want to tell about it. The great irony is that we go all the way back to Isaiah chapter 52, and this is 700 years before the Christ child is born. 700 years. Yet this was the will of the Lord, to crush him with pain. When you make his life an offering for sin, he shall see his offspring and shall prolong his days. Through him the will of the Lord shall prosper. Out of his anguish he shall see light. He shall find satisfaction through his knowledge. The righteous one, my servant, shall make many righteous, and he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore I will allot him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out himself to death, and was numbered with the transgressors. Yet he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. That's not the world. That doesn't make any sense to the world. What rings in your heart? What seems to make sense ultimately to you? Knowing who you are, knowing who the people around you are, knowing who that granddaughter is, or that grandson, or the great-grandchild maybe by now. Who are they? The world? The world's package? Or something else? Something else. That little something at the back of our brain that's nagging us and pulling us and saying, now wait. If all there is the message of the world, then how could you even think this other way? How could you even think in the direction of anything other than the world if all there is the world? Something to think about. Something to ponder. Can we know something greater than the soup in which we live here in this place at this time? Can something make us privy to something greater? Something else to trust and to put our faith in? Well, tonight, we won't go there. But soon and very soon,